All right. So good to see kind of everyone here join us for the Healthy Gut, Healthy Immune System webinar. I'm Dr. Melanie McLaren. I'll tell you a little bit more about me in a moment. But again, thank you for joining us. I am the owner of Dragonfly 360, a wellness center, a board certified naturopathic doctor, and a registered yoga teacher. I also am a certified NAET practitioner, which is a gentle allergy treatment. And that can be used for anything from seasonal allergies to food sensitivities to food allergies. And it's largely based on Chinese medicine or acupressure. I also have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and then my doctorate in naturopathy. My own healing crisis is what led me to become a naturopathic doctor. So I had tons of chronic health issues that I had developed. And at the time I was living in California, so I went to a naturopathic doctor there and he really helped me. So I felt so passionate about it that I decided to do that myself. So go back to school. So obviously I believe in what I do because I lived through it. So who is Dragonfly 360? We have 8 certified yoga teachers, and we offer both virtual and in-studio classes. We also have an infrared sauna, and offering naturopathic and nutritional consults, and those are both virtual and in office. Obviously, the allergy treatments, the acupressure allergy treatments have to be in office. So kind of the big things that I see as far as the chronic health issues. Oops, hold on one second here. I just got to admit someone. Apologize for that. Technology, right, this year. So the kind of the most common chronic health issues that I see would be digestive issues, allergies, food sensitivities, sleep, mood, and hormonal imbalances. So that could be anything from thyroid, sex hormones, adrenals. And a big part of working with someone is making sure that we are managing stress, because I do feel like stress causes everything eventually. So why do people come to Dragonfly 360? I mean, as I already mentioned, to deal with the chronic conditions, the allergies, anxiety, digestive issues. Also, a lot of times people will have already went to multiple doctors and maybe they can't figure out why they don't feel good. You know, other labs might look normal. So a lot of times we'll dig deeper and figure out, you know, why they're not feeling like themselves. And that leads us to the third reason. It's to find balance in their lives and feel like themselves again. So our agenda today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our immune defense system. I mean, we could spend a lot of time on that, so I'm just going to touch on it. And also same thing with the digestive system. We're mostly going to talk about the stomach and the large intestine today, and then offer some keys for healthy digestion. And then at the end, there'll be a special offer for joining today, so make sure you stick around. So immunity is still not fully understood. We do know that the immune system provides barriers to protect our bodies from invaders. It tries to detect and eliminate bacteria and viruses that get past the first line of defense. And then if the invaders start to reproduce, the immune system is responsible to eliminate the challenge. Again, I'm sorry, for some reason it won't let me admit people unless I pause the play here. So again, technology, got someone that just wanted to join. And then the lymphatic system is a vital part of our immune system. And again, I'm just going to touch on this, but it's a multifaceted system that supports the body. it's making the immune cells, but it's also storing them and transporting them to where our body needs them. And I'll also touch on how the digestive system and the lymphatic system work a little bit together as well. But they're also going to clean up the bacteria, viruses, any dead cells that we might have. So admit someone else there. So our immune defense system, the skin is the outer wall or the fortress. It's thick, so it's going to try to defend the invaders from coming in. And then the eyes, nose, and mouth, they have mucus, so they're capturing those bacteria as well. And then we have the cilia, the tiny hairs in our nose that also trap our bacteria and viruses. And the digestive tract, I mentioned stomach acid and intestinal beneficial bacteria that we're going to talk about today. But there's other aspects, of course. Gallbladder is an example. The bile is antibacterial, kind of acts like a soap. So there's many aspects of the intestinal tract that help our immune system. And it's the largest organ in the immune system. So anatomy of digestion, just a little bit here. It's kind of impressive when you think about it, but there are more organs in your digestive system than any other system. So 2/3 of all your body parts are found here. And you use up to 2/3 of your daily energy just to digest and clean house. So if we talk about the stomach is mixed, food in the stomach is mixed with HCl, which is hydrochloric acid, and pepsin. And so that's kind of what kind of gets the ball rolling with the digestion in the stomach. So HCl, hydrochloric acid, as the name reflects, is acidic. So we want our stomach to be very acidic. And the reason why that doesn't bother our stomach, or it's not harmful to the stomach, is because the lining of the stomach sheds cells at 500,000 a minute. So the stomach replaces itself every 3 days. And the HCl is needed to help break down proteins, but also help destroy microbes that are bad. And then it also stimulates downstream pancreatic enzyme, and stimulates bile, so helps digest fats. And then if we don't start that digestive process right off the bat, what can happen is undigested food can pass into the small intestine and can cause leaky gut, which we've all heard that term, which literally means the gut wall has become a little porous. And that sets you up for inflammation and allergies and sensitivities. So we really want to make sure we have sufficient stomach acid. And just a little bit about kind of heartburn here and low stomach acid. That's the case in 90% of the time. It's low stomach acid, not too much stomach acid. And really the reason for that is the acid in the stomach, the pH, needs to be low enough to close the valve between the stomach and the esophagus. So if your stomach is not acidic, that valve will stay open and food will come up into the esophagus. So that's why we need that acid in our stomach. And if you don't have enough acid, typically you're going to have some heartburn or coming up into the esophagus. So these proton pump inhibitor medications that block stomach acid are really messing with our digestion downstream. So some of the signs of low stomach acid, I won't go through and read all these for you. I mean, you can see them here. And we've touched on some of them, but some things that might not be obvious, like your deficiencies. I mean, B12 and B9, which that's B9 is folate. So, you can end up with other deficiencies as well. And that's why osteoporosis is on here. In fact, there were some studies recently that they did in relation to the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors, causing osteoporosis. And that's simply because it is blocking our absorption, in that case, of minerals. So it can be a lot of things going on there. So what do you do to help support your stomach acid? So a few things here. A big one is hydration. So we want to stay hydrated by drinking water throughout the day. And it's best if you drink away from meals. So, you can still drink water with your meal, just not, mass quantities. And then eating non-processed foods. And I'll touch on this a little bit more later. And then lemon to water. So that's a really easy thing you can do. And then sometimes we might have to supplement with digestive enzymes or herbal bitters. And managing stress, which I'm also going to touch on a little bit more here in a moment. So it takes an enormous amount of energy and blood flow to make stomach acid. And when you have chronic stress, this can reduce this production. And, the primary reason for that is this stress-related mucosal disease. I mean, it can also cause gastritis, which is basically just inflammation in the stomach. But what it does is it restricts the blood flow to the upper GI tract when you're really stressed. So, in other words, your body is going to shunt that blood flow other places where it's needed. So people with these genes, this is kind of a little sidebar here, but genetic variants, these SNPs, if you've done your genetics and you have any of these genes, these variants, you have an increased odds of having this problem, of having poor blood flow to the gut when you're under stress. So you're a little bit more susceptible to gastritis and ulcers, IBS. So a big thing we want to do is just manage our stress. And one way we can do that is with breathing exercises. And they actually did show that allows blood flow to return to the GI tract and opens up the diaphragm. So as far as breathing, a couple different things here, the 3-part breathing, which we're actually going to do an exercise here. This is also known as abdominal breathing. And then we have a 2-to-1 breathing. And the 2-to-1 is just the extended exhale. That one is really good. If you have trouble sleeping at night, it's really supporting the calming part of your immune system. So, but we're going to do a little exercise here with 3-part breathing. So go ahead and place your right hand palm facing down on those lower abdominal area, kind of below your belly button. And then your left hand, just place that on the outside of your left side of your rib cage and close your eyes. And first, just kind of notice your breath. Maybe you're breathing more in that upper chest area. So we want to change that. So on your next inhale, start breathing in that lower abdominal area. So you should feel that right hand start to go forward first. So we inhale, lower abdominal first. As we move up, the ribs expand out, and then coming into that upper chest. And as you exhale, we feel the breath coming down, rib cage coming closer together, belly button pulls back towards our spine. So continuing with that, so inhale, lower abdominals fill first, coming up, ribs expand out into the upper chest, shoulders stay relaxed. As you exhale, moving the breath the opposite way. So we really feel that breath moving down. So keep going with that breathing and try to just imagine the breath being very smooth. And if you have a hard time with this, and you're more in that upper chest, it just takes practice like anything. If you're used to breathing more shallow, then you'll have a little bit more trouble with this at first, but then it will happen. And then we're going to change the breath just a little bit and try to do that extended exhale. So trying to make your exhales longer than your inhales. So you might do this by counting. So when you exhale, maybe you count to 4 or 6, and inhale might be 2 to 4. Just whatever works for you. We're trying to make the exhale longer than the inhale. Over time, we might even get that ratio to be 2 to 1, but in the beginning, just making it a little bit longer. Still breathing deeply in those lower abdominals as you're doing this. And then slowly just kind of let that breath go, coming back to normal breathing, maybe opening your eyes, and then just taking a few moments to notice how you feel. Do you feel calmer? Like I always feel quieter, more relaxed. And we've also helped the digestion. So obviously this breathing you can do every day. It just takes a few minutes. It can literally be starting with like a couple minutes a day, and maybe you work up to like 5, 10. So it doesn't have to be a lot. And this is a big part of yoga too. So if you don't already practice yoga, that's always a good thing. We always talk about the breath. So we're going to switch gears and talk about the large intestine now, otherwise known as the colon. So this forms the lower part of the digestive tract, helps it secretes mucus, eliminates waste products and toxins. It's also responsible for reabsorbing water, electrolytes, and B vitamins. And there are 3 parts. There's ascending, transversing colon, and descending colon. So ascending is on the right side, kind of comes up like below the belly button, starting there, and then comes up. Transverse is across that belly button and down the left side. So that's the way that your colon moves. And descending colon also has this S-shaped area called the sigmoid colon. So probiotics, which are mostly found in our colon, they account for roughly 75% of our immunity. So that's why we want to talk about the colon and our immune system. Potential signs of problems in the colon. And some of these you might recognize from the low stomach acid one as well. But again, some of them are obvious, but then others might not be. Itching, the sinus and lung problems and skin problems, those all have to do with obviously your immune system and immune response. There's also headaches, joint pain, memory issues, mood issues, since most of our neurotransmitters are made with our beneficial bacteria in our gut. And PMS, obviously hormone issues, anything like that. So how happy is your colon? I have a smiley colon there. So Kayla, we can thank Kayla for that. She did a great job with the graphics and like our smiley happy colon. So when people first come in, I mean, digestion is something that I always want to look at. So when we're going through the paperwork, I'm always looking to see what they checked with the digestion area, and especially constipation. So a lot of times it won't be checked off, but then when I ask people how often they go, it might be, once or twice a week. So you want to be going at least once a day. Twice a day is optimal. And when you're going, it shouldn't be hard and dry, and you shouldn't have to strain. So we want to look at those and make sure your transit time is good in your colon. Also making sure you're having enough fiber and prebiotics with the 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So it's about 25 grams of fiber. I mean, typically everybody's different that we want to consume a day. And then looking at stress, of course, that can impact everything. So when your transit time is slow, the rest of the body can be affected. So if the waste remains too long in the colon, the water will get reabsorbed and you'll get constipated. So if you've got slow transit time, it also can make you constipated for other reasons. And that will just allow the toxins to build up. We want those coming out, not getting reabsorbed. And this is where it can stress the lymphatic system. So this is where those toxins would impact that. And then we have the lymphatic system that's trying to fight all these invaders and make immune cells and work. And then all of a sudden it's got these extra toxins. So we don't want that happening. And that's where we increase the risk of auto intoxication, basically. So we don't want that. So many things can slow down your transit time. Obviously, we've talked about stress. And there's a few other things here. We want to talk about diet a little bit more in detail, which we're going to get to. Obviously, staying hydrated helps everything too. Exercise. And then here's another gene. Again, if you've done your genetics, if you have the FUT2 gene. And by the way, if you've done any genetic testing like 23andMe or Ancestry DNA, I can look at those, bring those data files into another program that I use to look at like these little genetic variations. But this is another gene that is typically can cause like slow transit time and maybe not enough mucus in the gut. So if someone is doing all the right things like with diet and we're getting enough fiber and you're still stuck, there's a very particular prebiotic that can help this. So that's just helpful to know. So let's focus on what we can do to help our digestion. And we already touched on some of these, but sleeping obviously helps the body recover. And it also is when your body is doing a lot of housekeeping, so cleaning out things. Exercise is going to help the lymphatic as well as the digestion. The lymphatic system does not have an internal pump, so it depends on your movement to help move the lymph. So that's really important for that. Water, kind of a simple recipe, is half your body weight in ounces a day. And then we'll get to a little bit more in diet, but the more you can eat non-processed foods, some more whole foods, the better off you're going to be. And I would say, like, out of all the foods that are inflammatory and can cause problem, I would say like wheat and dairy. If I had to pick one, I would say it's wheat. But the more you can kind of limit those and see if you feel better, see if that helps your digestion. I feel like the better people feel. And sometimes we might need to supplement. Again, that can do with genetics if people are stuck, or sometimes we just got to get them unstuck with a detox to help things go better. And then the self-abdominal massage in the middle there at the bottom. So I kind of touched on that a little bit with how your colon goes with this ascending, transfer, and descending. But it can be really helpful. So if you feel like your transit time is slow or constipated, you can just do a little self-massage each night when you go to bed and follow the path of your colon. You can use, some lotion or oil or, just gently rub. But if you start below the belly button on the right side, again, that's your ascending. So it's coming up, and then you work your way up above the belly button and go across to the left side of your belly button and come down, and then pick up your hand and do that same kind of loop keep doing that same motion. That can make a difference and help your transit time as well. Nothing like self-care, really. And then fiber, really this slide, I just wanted to point out that there's two different types and that many foods have both. So it's not like you have to sit there and figure out, am I getting enough soluble, insoluble? The soluble is the one that's kind of like a sponge, traps things. And then the insoluble is the one that's kind of like scrubbing the colon. So they're both really important. But you can see that beans, as an example, is on both soluble and insoluble there for you. So, and if you are eating refined foods, so processed foods or like white breads using white flour, things like that, that's been processed, chances are you're not getting really a lot of fiber or beneficial fiber. And then many of these fibrous foods also have prebiotics. So it's great. You're getting two things. You're getting the fiber and you're getting the prebiotics, which we're going to talk about next. So prebiotics essentially is just food for the probiotics. And the probiotics are the beneficial bacteria in your gut. And the prebiotic fibers can be helpful for a lot of bowel issues, IBS, IBD, leaky gut, and just regulating your bowel function. So I listed some foods that are prebiotics, but again, it's a lot of the fibrous foods. So if you're eating a lot of whole foods that you're preparing, like your fruits and vegetables, whole grains, minus the wheat, you're going to be getting a lot of these prebiotics. And then I also just included on the slide just some more information about certain prebiotics. As an example, like bananas have both soluble and insoluble fiber. So a lot of those do catch both of those. And then probiotics, this term just refers again to the good bacteria that are in the gut, and they can help with the immune system. And I would say, like, there's a number of ways they do that, but also the biggest way I would say is just the balance. So we want to have a pretty good balance of good to bad. So if you get too much bad bacteria, you're going to have problems. Your body's going to be constantly fighting that off. So it could be stressing your immune system. So it's really about the balance of the good. They also improve absorption of our nutrients. So that would also help our immune system too. And I mentioned before that roughly 75% of our immunity is found in the colon, and that's because of the probiotics. So foods with probiotics, sauerkraut, yogurt, olives, pickles, are some of the foods. I made sauerkraut recently. It is not hard. Like, I love sauerkraut. No, I know not everybody likes it, but and again, remember, the prebiotics are food for the probiotics, so they can help too. But we want to try to get some probiotics as well in the diet. And if you follow us on Instagram, I did post my sauerkraut recipe too. So you can follow us there to grab that if you haven't. And then I just added this slide, a few extra notes just about when you're eating like these whole foods, just some extra nutrients that you can get from them to support the immune system. So like peppers as an example, most people don't know that that's higher in vitamin C than the citrus fruits. So you can kind of look at this and, try to incorporate those foods. Glutathione within the watermelon is just a super antioxidant. That's also found in a lot of lean meats too. So how can we help? And I mentioned this in the beginning as well. We have the yoga, both virtual and in studio. So if you're not in Indianapolis, you can hop on virtually, and that can help with the stress and also the breathing for the diaphragm and the blood flow. Infrared sauna, again, increasing circulation, helping with stress, detoxification, and then consults for any of the chronic health issues as well. And just for joining us today, you can have $20 off your next consult when you mention this webinar. So just wanted to appreciate everyone's time for that. And then if you don't already follow us on social media, here's our Instagram and Facebook page information, as well as our contact information. And I'm just gonna kind of minimize my screen here a little bit so I can get to some of the chat questions here. So I'll just answer a few questions, and then and if you missed the beginning, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat, and then anything I don't get to, we can send out via email. And it looks like someone just messaged me about if someone comes and they have constipation, how long could it take to resolve that? And that's everybody is different, but kind of what I tell people is once I have them on a protocol, 6 weeks, they're usually about 60% better. So we see like a 10% improvement a week. And, again, that depends on how long someone has had an issue too, as to if it could take longer, and sometimes it can be faster, but that's kind of my little formula. And what I do with people is looking at everything like diet. It's not just supplementation. We want to look at diet, make sure you're getting the right nutrients there. And I do lab testing as well, micronutrient testing, stool testing, hormones, all of that if we need to. Another question raw versus cooked fruit and vegetables? That's a really good question. Thank you, Cynthia. That, we do hear sometimes, a lot of times people like raw is better, but that is not always the case. If you've got a digestive system that is just not optimal, especially the stomach, like if you're still having gastritis or low stomach acid, the raw is not always better because it's harder to digest. So then I actually have people do cooked for a while until we get the digestion working, like cooked only. So otherwise, if stomach is pretty good, then like raw is good. And if you're gonna do cooked, usually I tell people to like not high. I mean, you can high temperature. Like I still like roasted vegetables, like especially in the winter. But it's better if you can do a kind of lower temperature and with like steaming with vegetables to not kill all the enzymes in them. So really, to answer that question, a diet of mixed raw and cooked is best. Unless someone has like some upper GI issues, then we start out with only cooked for a while until we fix that. So, well, I will let everyone go because we're at time. And I really appreciate it. If there's anything else I didn't get to, or you think of another question, you can always email us at the info@dragonfly360.net. And again, we appreciate your time and have a great day. If you need anything from us, let us know. Thanks.